Hey, hi, good afternoon. It's time for our weekly INLEO update or Leo update. Taskmaster is here with me, and we're going to get this show started. So, we're talking about Web3 today, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. Web3 is a good topic, good subject. I've written a lot about it over the years. I don't think people really grasp the concept, but things are changing, and people better wake up. That's all I have to say.
Now, when you're talking about sharing bandwidth, is that the same or like sharing space on your computer? That's like the sharing space is like the IPFS. Like,
Yeah, well, IPFS is a a form of decentralized storage, but there's many different layers to the internet. Storage is just one of them. Compute's another. CDN. There's a lot of different things that are done online, and for the most part, they're done by major corporations: Cloudflare, AWS, Microsoft, Apple. I mean, you just look at the internet stack, and you just look at the different silos, and this is why there's in the developed world, or in the West, I should say, roughly 20, 25 companies that control everything online. I mean, you got your PayPal's, your Amazon's, your Google's, your Facebook, Meta, X, um, companies like that. And a large portion of it is they ultimately control the infrastructure and or at least large portions of it. And this makes it very difficult for a Web3 to come in and build these quote unquote decentralized systems on top of centralized infrastructure. And the problem is the centralized infrastructure just simply cannot scale with where we're going with AI and with inference compute and all this other stuff. The next generation internet is going to require a lot more in terms of infrastructure than we see today. And it cannot come from individual companies. It's going to have to come from the masses, and any compute that is not used, whether that computer's in a car, whether that computer's in a robot, whether that computer's in your phone, whether it's in a coffee maker, it's going to have to be used. It's going to have to be uh, utilized for some type of processing service. And the same with storage, the same with a lot of stuff. And that's where things are going. And this is one of the fundamental layers of Web3. We often talk about Web3 in terms of tokens and social media and all this other stuff, but this is equally, if not more important than that.
so do you know? I mean, so when you're sharing your bandwidth or whatever, when you're the computing that you're not using, how does that work? I mean, do, do you have a choice
Well,
about who you allow to do that,
well,
or
there has to be some type of protocol written that you tap into, like the protein folding a number of years ago, just before COVID. There was a big protein folded thing. And they were able to gather enough compute, I mean, more than the largest supercomputer in the world. So you have to have a protocol designed for this that, allocates the necessary processes to two different computers. And that's what, in terms of storage, like Speak Network is building. They're building a system where they're building a protocol that's going to allow for the storage of video and other documents on hard drives spread all over the world. And they have, ways that you can validate that you actually have the file before you're rewarded, that type of thing. And those all have to be built and constructed.
and you can also like give permission or not to? someone using your bandwidth, right? I mean, is that going to be an option, or is
Well,
it just
no, I mean either you are or you are not allowing it. If you're allowing it, I mean you're talking bandwidth, which is different than storage. If you're talking processing, which I don't know who's doing that. I mean that's what the Fold at Home or whatever they called it was. There's other initiatives out there. I haven't seen any relating to what we're involved in, but it doesn't mean that they're not out there. But like Speak Network is that's file storage, what they're primarily doing. Now they may get into different things with processing down the road. I don't know. But to get like to a metaverse environment, you're going to need to be able to borrow other people's processing. And um, to do that, they're going to have to opt in that says, yeah, I want to. And whether it's for inference, whether it's for gaming, whether it's for whatever, I mean, if you're using somebody's compute, they want to get paid. And so they're going to have the ability, I would presume, to turn it on and say, okay, you can use my computer to, you do some processing, do some calculations. And at that point, um, if you are used, you're going to get paid based upon some type of metric, whether it's based upon a prompt, if it's inference or whatever it is, then you'll earn some cryptocurrency. And I think you already see that. I think there's some of the things. I mean, that's what mining is. Mining is essentially using your processor. Granted, people set up specialized devices, but in the early days of mining, they did it with their CPUs. And you were able to just take a laptop and mine and run calculations on your laptop and earn yourself some Bitcoin. Now you just can't do it. You require GPUs and high end hardware. But there's different projects out there. I see a lot of people involved with using their mobile phone and giving some of the processing on their mobile phone, and they get a little crypto in return. So that's where I think you're looking at a lot of expansion of infrastructure that presents opportunities to people. And again, it's part of that understanding of ownership and being able to comprehend a different world where you probably are not going to have a job that pays you money. Um, Now, people disagree with me on this, and there is a great debate out there whether AI and robotics will destroy jobs or not. I'm in the camp they're cooked because, especially knowledge work, who the hell is going to pay any knowledge work when you have AGI? Nobody. I mean, there might be some select cases, but most of your knowledge work goes bye bye, and that's going to be a problem. So, what do people do? And this is where I think it's just a foolish answer to not understand where things are going and where distributed computing is going. I mean, this is where a lot of this stuff is moving. I mean, inference is going to be as big as neural network compute is. Inference is probably going to 10x it, maybe 100x it,
wow?
because when you have people doing prompts all day through all kinds of different applications, and they won't be called prompts because maybe you're just using it in your search engine, but it's still a prompt. It's still pulling the data from, it's still inference. It's still got to go through the inference system. Where is that? Well, right now it's run by Meta. It's run by, you know, OpenAI. It's run by ChatGPT. It's run by these entities. But at a certain point, it's going to get too big for them. That's going to have to be done elsewhere. And who's going to pay for that? Where is it going to be done? And where are they going to get all that compute? It's going to have to be distributed. And that's where, I mean, Elon's already talked about this on the last couple earnings call about inference on the cars. And actually, this earnings call, he talked about it on the robots. And the Tesla bot, Optimus, when that rolls out, they'll probably use those computers for inference when the bots aren't in action or when the computer's in idle. That's what it's going to need to be. And so if people look at things in that direction, then you start to understand how assets become even more important. Because when people say, well, if computers and robots do all the work, how does anybody buy anything? Well, you better own assets that generate a return. It's that simple. You know, the economic productivity is going through the roof. Question is, what piece are you getting? And you're not getting it from labor anymore. That's going by the wayside.
Yeah, I can't imagine not wanting to be aware or, to know what's going on and have a piece of that somehow because, like you said, jobs, traditional jobs are just, they're kind of dying.
If you look at, there's three jobs that stand out to me. Go back and watch old movies, and you'll see a guy in the elevator who runs the elevator up and down. Go watch old movies, and you will see switchboard operators, people standing at switchboards and actually plugging in the cables.
Oh,
Or go watch old movies, and you'll see secretarial pools where there were people sitting at typewriters all day with carbon paper, typing letters and making copies that way.
that's what my mother did
All of
after high
those,
school.
all of those were replaced by machines, by the copy machine, by the automated switch, and by whatever the hell runs elevators these days, by the buttons and the pulleys and whatever automation runs the elevators. That's what's going to happen to most of our jobs. If you looked at the demo of ChatGPT 4.0, now I understand it's a demo. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. Maybe they fudged it, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But basically, these language models, we will get to a point where we are interacting with AI in conversation, which means when you call customer service, you are not going to be speaking to a human. You are going to be speaking to AI. So what essentially has happened is customer service jobs were outsourced from countries like the US and higher income countries to lower income countries. Well, guess what? Those lower income countries are going to lose those jobs because AI is going to come in. And now all of a sudden, there's cable companies or Amazon or whoever the hell the company is able to just buy this software package and say, okay, we will handle it. Now, maybe they have to keep 10% of the workforce for those things that do operate outside of that. Fine, but it's still a serious reduction. You look at autonomous driving. You look at all these different areas. You look at surgeons and robotic surgery. You look at, and ironically, surgeons can get replaced sooner than nurses because changing a bedpan is a lot harder than doing, surgery, believe it or not, because if you're going to do surgery, you're always going and drilling in the same area and that type of thing. If you're changing a bedpan, well, you're dealing with changing circumstances and the changing environment. Not that that won't be done anyway. Ultimately, it will be. It's just a question of how quick. And I use a top 5-year time frame for a lot of knowledge work because that's beyond where most of the experts believe AGI is going to be. They believe AGI maybe about 2027. So what's that? 3 years. I go two and a half years beyond that and say you're not going to be hiring an accountant. You're not going to be hiring a lawyer for most of your legal things. Maybe if you have to go and fight in court, okay, maybe you still require the person. But, when you start to look at just the basic things, just like making a copy with a typewriter and a person, as opposed to, hell, now you don't even use the copy machine. You go to your open up the file on your computer and you say print out 5 copies instead of 1. And half the time you don't even print it out. You just go to your email and send it to 5 different people. So this is how things have changed. And that happened over a 40-year period. What we are seeing coming up is happening over a 10 to 20-year period. So This is what I want people to be aware of. If you keep in mind that ChatGPT came out like the last day in November 2022. We're like 18, 19 months beyond that. And 2022. Yeah. So we're 18, 19 months beyond that. We're not even at 2 years yet. And look at how things have changed. So
it's exploding. It's every other day I see something new, AI, something or other. It's like, wow.
Yeah, and what happens is you get the hype cycle, you get a lot of innovation, you get a lot of failures. So not everything you see is going to work out, but some of it will. And when you say, okay, if 10% of everything we see in terms of innovation works out, that's huge. That's enormous. And you haven't even started to see anything but the basic digital infrastructure, i.e., these language models. We're still waiting on Leo AI. Leo AI is an application. It's a utility um, for the large language model. It's a large language model in itself. It's incorporating it, but it's also adding its own thing. So it's not exactly an agent well, I guess you could say it's an agent because it's going to have agents built into it, I presume, to help with the writing of a blog post and getting information. Those will be agent type activities. So once you start to get into that and you spread that across enterprise, just spread it across your cable company, your wireless phone carrier, Netflix, General Motors, IBM, all different companies that are out there, your different banks and financial institutions, they're all playing with this stuff and implementing it to varying degrees. And I'll give some insight into an article that I'm going to write either tonight or tomorrow. I don't know where it'll end up, but Brian Gumbel is the resident idiot for not knowing technology in the '90s. He was on the Today Show, and he's known for asking what is the internet with in like '94. It's a very famous clip. But there was another clip that I came across where and it wasn't really Brian Gumbel. Well, he was being a doofus. He was sitting there saying how computer sales have slowed. And I don't know what year this was, maybe early '90s or something like that. But he was saying how computer sales have slowed. And he had two guests on. And one guest was saying they're not slowing. And he said, yes, they are. And well, we're looking at two different pieces of data. And it's like, no, they're growing at 30% a year. And so that guy was saying, no, this stuff is not slowing. And he had somebody else who disagreed and said that computers are not going to amount to much. And the guy said, listen, as computers are now, they are not going to grow, because as they were at the date of this interview was I interact with a computer. He says where this is going to take off is when computers are connected to each other and start talking to each other, which of course, whenever this video was filmed, the late '80s, early '90s, that was preposterous. That was absurd. That was asinine. Who the hell?
That was like Bill Gates saying we'll only ever need 64 megabytes of CPU or whatever he said.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you look at technology, do not look at it as it is now and say, oh, it's not going anywhere. You have to understand what gets built. And the personal computer took off not because people were interested in personal computers to do their household budget. They took off when they became connected to each other and they started interacting with each other, and we started communicating with each other through these devices. And it's the same thing with these language models. Don't look at the language model as they are now. Don't look at the chatbot as it is now. That's a nothing. That's a nothing burger. Think of where it's going to be 5 or 8 years from now, or even 3 years from now, and what it's going to be implemented in, and how you're going to use these language models. They're going to be used to talk with, to interact with, real time, whether it's through to a robot, whether it's through the phone or your computer, to some customer service office, whether it's handling your payment of your bills, whether it's ordering you more coffee, whatever the hell it is, it's going to be handling these things. And that's the point, that stuff that used to be done by humans is the amount of stuff done by humans better than a computer is declining every day. So give enough time. That means enough more stuff is going to be better done by computers than humans. Well, what happens to those humans? They're out the door. They're not required. They're not needed. And you think about robocalls. As much as they drive people nuts, and robocalls were done in their infantile stage. But think of the savings in personnel to dial all those phone numbers. Think of the savings from having a outgoing call center where you had people picking up the phone and calling people, trying to sell them A, B, C, and D. And think of the profitability of these robocalls. And obviously the reason the robocalls were done is because they worked. And so you have the computer dial a million numbers and maybe only 0.0001% actually buy your damn product. But what does it cost you? It costs you very little. You're not paying payroll. So that's a big difference. And that's what automation does. And that's what we've seen you go back to a backhoe. Think of how many people, if you want to dig a hole for running a sewage line, and you see the utility company or the city out there with their backhoe, and they dig a 500-foot section, and using a backhoe, they probably can do that, I don't know, hour, 2 hours. How many people with shovels, and how long would it take them to do that same thing? It'd take them all week, because you can't get 100 people in there because they'd end up tripping on each other. So it would take a lot longer. And that's what's happening with automation. That's what we're seeing. And so when you look at Web3 and you look at the opportunity, where is the opportunity for you to own? And that's the essence of Web3. Read, write, own. I've been talking about this for months now. Read, write is Web2. You read and write on X. You read, you write. Elon owns the damn thing, not you. You go to Facebook, you read and write. Zuckerberg owns, not you. You go to YouTube, you read and write or upload video. You don't own it. Google does.
And they can go, see ya, anytime they want.
Well, not only that, it's like, okay, Google does remarkably better. X does remarkably better. So let's say Elon gets X to be $100 billion company. Okay? What do you get out of it? If you're all day on X, what do you get out of it? Zero, nada, zip. You don't even own the stock. You can't even own the stock. It's a private company. So every single user outside of Elon and maybe those few who have private stock, every single one of those 500 million people or whatever each month on X get zero equity benefit if that goes from whatever it's worth now to 100 billion. And if it goes to 250 billion, what do they get? Zero, nada, nothing. Now you could say, well, what about they're sharing the ad revenue? Again, you're looking at income. Okay, you get your $50. What do you get next month? What does your $50 turn into? Well, it's $50. You can go spend it on whatever, but that's income. That's not owning stuff. That's not owning crap. And if you go take that $50 and spend it, now you got nothing. Maybe you got lunch, maybe you got, something you bought, a comic book or whatever, but you have nothing that's going to go up in value. Now, if you're active on Leo, let's say, and you get rewarded and you take that token and you stake it and you curate with it, good things happen. You end up growing the amount of tokens you're getting, A, but B, more importantly, what if Leo goes from 6 cents to 60 cents or 6 cents to $1.60 or whatever? Your equity grows. So if you have 5,000 Leo at 6 cents, you still have 5,000 Leo, but now it's worth $1.60. So you don't get that with X. And this is just the simplest of simple. Now what happens if we look at this from the essence of, okay, what do we run all this crap on? Well, we need infrastructure. What about we need storage? We need all this type of infrastructure. Well, what if you can turn your phones? What if you can turn your laptops into income-generating things where you got cryptocurrency? Not necessarily Leo, because this wouldn't be a Leo project, but you get some cryptocurrency that either A, you can use and pay bills with, or B, more importantly, you could take and maybe get whatever crypto you want. Maybe you want a little Bitcoin, maybe you want some Ethereum, maybe you want Leo, maybe you want Hive, maybe you want whatever, or maybe you just want to hold on to whatever the crypto is because you think whatever that inference project, as an example, is going to be worth a boatload. Whatever you want to do. But at least then you have assets that maybe you can stake, maybe you can curate with, maybe you can do something with to grow. You can use as collateral on a loan. You can do a lot of different things with. That's the difference. That's Web3. What you're dealing with on X or Facebook is Web2. You don't own shit. You are dealing with the client server infrastructure, which means you go in to the client, the front end, x.com, that's owned by Elon and his partners. You post something on there, you upload a video, you upload a picture, that goes to X servers. That is controlled and owned, and the data on there is owned by Elon. So if you want the data, you can't get it. And now we're starting to see companies like Reddit, where they struck a deal with Google. You can't even find Reddit posts through other search engines. Why? Reddit is locking down their stuff so it cannot be copied, it cannot be scraped. They want people paying for it. So now we get into the democratization of data. So when you look at infrastructure, when you look at applications, when you look at utility, when you look at data, all of this has to be democratized, because if not, you are going to have the next generation of the internet be controlled by many of the same idiots we see now that are so welcoming and loving towards us. And, you know, if you want to change things, you need to start changing your thinking. You need to start changing your approach and fully understand what it means to own things. And I see why people shy away from this, other than the fact that they don't understand it. Because it means responsibility. And people don't like responsibility. See, the great thing about a user is you get the bitch. You can go to X, oh, Elon's stupid. He's a moron. You know, like 99% of the people who say that are even within like 50 IQ points of Elon. But leaving that aside, it's easy just to bitch and moan. When you own something, when you own a business, when you own a house, if you own a house, if your faucets, if your hot water heater's out, guess what? You got to fix it. Or hire somebody to fix it. Now, if you rent, if you're just a user, I use the apartment, I use the hotel, and the hot water heater's out. I pick up the phone, call the landlord, I call the front desk, I call somebody and say, fix this damn thing. See, that's the difference. But people do that on web too, but they say, but I don't get anything. They stole my data. They didn't steal your data. You gave it to them, dumbass. Nobody forces you to post on X or on Facebook or to upload your videos on Google. Nobody forced you to do that, and even Rumble. Oh, Rumble is not YouTube. It's open. It's better. No, it's not. Centralized. You know, okay, you may prefer it. They may not be as much of a bunch of dicks as YouTube, but it's a company. If somebody sends them a cease and desist and they refuse it, their ass is going to get taken to court. And if they lose, guess what? That shit's taken down. Now, you go on to IPFS and send, first off, try to send a cease and desist to IPFS. Who are you sending it to? You can't. So this is where I think people need to start to really change their thinking, understand what Web3 means, understand the responsibility comes with it. If you want the payout, take responsibility for generating it. And the great thing is, it's not a secret model. We've seen it with Facebook. We've seen it with Google. We've seen it with all these digital platforms. The more activity that you create and generate, and the more value you create by putting it onto the platform, the more value the platform grows. It's that simple. And that's why I'm so hard on people and pushing, innovate, create new ideas. Even if it doesn't get you more rewards right up front, whatever rewards you have, you want to make them more valuable. In fact, there's no way most people are going to make in rewards what they have. If you have over, let's say, 5,000 Leo. Because when you look at it at a dollar standpoint, if the price of Leo goes from 6 cents to $1.06, you just made $5,000 if you have 5,000 Leo. At 6 cents, how much Leo do you have to get to equal that $5,000? Now, I understand as the price of Leo goes up, you need less of it to get to the $5,000. But the point being, it's a hell of a lot easier to get $5,000 by the price going from 6 cents to $1.06 than it is for me to go scratch and claw and try to get rewards to get another $5,000. But by adding value, of course, I'm not exempt from earning more Leo anyway, because people curate my stuff and that type of stuff. And so guess what? You're enhancing the value, and people are upvoting your threads or upvoting your blog posts or whatever. And all of a sudden, some more Leo's flowing in anyway. I mean, that's the concept. And we see it throughout the blockchain world. We see it with infrastructure. We see it now with social media. We're going to see it with these different layers.
The other day, when Cal was talking about people not using lists, I mean, what? How does doing that play into what we're talking about here? I mean, is that just another form of collecting data, adding data?
No, what that is it's actually sorting data. And
Okay,
a way to think of lists, as I understand, and I'm not an expert on this, but if you want to think of lists, think of it as your own television channel
okay,
where you decide what you see on it.
okay,
And so you don't see everything that's just thrown up there. You select what you want. So you can go in and set up a list of people you follow, as an example. And so you can go in there and, in fact, Simple Game set up a list that he uses for his curation trail for those who own NFTs on his platform, because he curates part of what he does is, if you are part of the ecosystem by owning the NFTs, then he will have the main account curate some of the content. So what he does is he went in and set up a list of people who he wants to see their content, i.e., the ones who are holding his NFTs. Now you could go set up a list of people you want to follow. So maybe it's people who show up in the motivation threadcast each day. So you see them, you know who they are. So you say, I'm going to set these people up and I'm going to have a list. And so you create a list and it's there. And then I can come in and I can actually follow that list, just like you do. You set it up, but I can follow the list too. So then when I go into my list, I see it there. I can click on it, and that'll have all the uh, threads of people who you had set up on on the list originally. So it's a way to really isolate all this data that's out there in terms of, and that's part of what the move is. The for you, the list. Get the hell off the latest feed. Even Threadcast. I talked to Coyote Elation and I'm like, why the hell are you putting all these sports highlights on the latest feed? You set up a damn Threadcast for sports. Put them in there. That's where they belong. That's where people who are interested and will see them. You know, if you're not interested in sports, don't go into sports threadcast. So the more we isolate a lot of this data, those who are actually interested in it then can find it. Same with the for you. Who you interact with, you will see that over time appear on the for you. The algorithm, the machine learning engine presumes if you engage with somebody, you have some type of interest. And if you engage with them regularly and go back and forth, you have some type of interest. And so an easy way to get your for you feed working better, get in some threadcasts that interest you, because then they'll start showing up. And then the posts in the threadcast will start showing up. And then you can start engaging with those people. Even if you didn't scroll all the way to the bottom of the threadcast from 12 hours ago, all of a sudden they show up tomorrow on your for you feed. You respond to that. Now that person will start to show up a little more on your for you feed. And if you have similar interests, then it's going to start to give you something of interest, i.e., movies. Now, if you have no interest in, photography, I would suggest not going into the photography threadcast, because if you do and you start commenting, upvoting, and engaging, then you're
mm-hmm.
going to get photos on your on your for you feed. But if you like photos, if you like the work of others, if you like seeing sunsets and sunrises and buildings and selfies and all the stuff people are posting, then go in there and they'll end up on your for you feed. And not only what you've seen, but stuff you haven't seen will show up. And that's where it's moving. And lists give you an opportunity to structure things in that way also.
Okay, now that makes sense. Okay, do you want to hit some of these questions? I think we got a
Sure.
few of them.
Sure.
Okay, from Anderson. Do you guys You guys know what the difference will be between breakaway communities from Three Speaks and communities on Hive?
Yeah, breakaway communities will have their own their own app, and I presume they're going to be tied to. Well, I don't know. It might be off the Speak network, but because they have smart contracts, breakaway communities also will be able to tokenize.
Okay.
So they'll be able to set up a photography community and create a photo token, if you will, or whatever token they want.
Okay. Let's see. From Abundant Grace. How will we be able to maximize InLeo shorts?
I mean, that's like saying, how do I maximize TikTok? I mean, it's you can do whatever you want with it. I mean, Leo Shorts is like TikTok. It's you have a 45-second video that you shot. You go into Thread somehow, some way. I don't know the mechanics of it since I haven't seen it. But you open up a thread, and I presume there will be a button on Threads that will allow you to upload your video. You upload your video, and you tag it or whatever, and you hit thread. And now your video is there, just like videos are on Twitter or on TikTok or on YouTube. And people can engage with them much in the same way as they engage with any other thread. And here's the other thing, since it's a thread, everything I just said is valid. So if Lisa posts a motivation video that she does, let's say she does a short, and she just puts together a 45-second motivation song and posts it in her threadcast. And I presume, I don't know if we'll be able to do it at second layer or it has to be a top layer. If it's a top layer, that's fine. You just do the fed, you do it in the latest feed or in the For You feed, and then you take the thread and you drop it in your threadcast. So it's not the end of the world. But if you do that, that motivation video, if I was in your threadcast, could show up on my feed. And so now I have the opportunity to rethread your motivation video. I have the opportunity to upvote it. I have the opportunity to comment on it. And oh, by the way, there's also going to be a page built into the UI that is going to look like YouTube, where these different videos will show up. And I hope, and I don't know, but I hope, and I have to send a feedback or somebody send a feedback, or let's all send feedback. Hopefully they add like a shorts to your profile, your Leo profile, because they got, I don't know, threads, comments, latest. They got a bunch of things across the top, or threads, blogs, something, something. It would be great if they just, had shorts in there. So I could go to your profile, click, and get, if you did, I could get all your shorts that were put together. But they're going to have shorts, and we are also getting a thread recommend. We may not see this till Leo AI, but the idea is if I watch one of your motivation threads today, your motivation shorts, maybe you did 100 of them over the past 30 or 45 days. So as I'm watching that one, guess what happens? Another one will show up and it'll recommend this other thread from you or another one. And that's how you get your page views going up. That's how you get increased exposure. I'll be talking about all this on Friday on the Lion's Den.
Okay. Um, Abundant Grace also said she was pinning the threadcast to be a. Does that just mean she rethreaded it? Because
I don't know. I mean, somebody mentions pinning. I haven't seen where you can pin it. So I don't know. I think she may have meant threading it, rethreading it. I don't know. I have no idea what that means. But as far as I know, you can't pin anything. I haven't seen a way to pin threads.
yeah, and then I was like, okay, that's got to mean she's rethreading it because I don't. Okay, let's see what we have here. Oops. Come on. Oh no, I'm. Oh, come on. Here we are. Okay. This is the other one from Abundant Grace. And I think you answered it. The use cases for INLEO and Hive.
Yeah, I answered it in there.
Oh yeah, time is. This is from Caleb. Time is coming when there will not be a 9 to 5 job anymore. You get your earnings from the crypto world or the internet.
There's a lot of validity to that. I mean, you just think about the ability to take your Leo, to collateralize that on Maya when that goes in effect, then take the money from that and let's say put it in HBD and earn 20% on it. I mean, that's just a simple example where you can do it. And then you start talking about infrastructure, you start talking about all that I'm discussing here, and you can start to see how this could multiply. He's absolutely right.
Let's see what we got. Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, you were talking about customer service will be run by robots.
No, computers. I mean, they'll just be computers. It'll be yeah, just like there's no human when you use the regular telephone system and they're switching lines. There's no human doing that.
Well, now, I mean, there's not even like landlines anymore. It's all VoIP if you have.
Yeah, well, there's still the POT system's still heavily used, especially in non-U.S. countries. But they've had automated switching systems for 60 years.
Okay, Wananda just joined. What have I missed? We have to watch the replay. Let's see. Oh, yeah, she's talking about, they can kick us out anytime. Oh, Anderson loved the live broadcast inside the Threadcast.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is an added dimension to Threadcast. Makes it easy to find, at least.
Yeah. Have we heard, Anderson, have we heard anything about Leo Shorts?
Yeah. We heard about it last week on the AMA. Might be out Friday. Didn't turn out that way. Tune in tomorrow. Save that question for Cal.
So music lovers will go in the party room and enjoy themselves. I think that's referring to lists.
No, well, the party room's a Threadcast, so.
Mm-hmm. Is Taskmaster taking a cold coffee or hot? And that's it.
Hot coffee only. Cold coffee is sacrilegious.
Oh, I drink iced coffee in the summer. Anyway, yeah, so that's all the questions. And I think we froze up here. Connection's really wonky today. Gosh.
Yeah, you're kind of like sputtering around on the feed. You must have your internet must be a little screwy.
Only when I use this restream. It's weird.
Could be your computer then. Maybe it's your computer. You don't have enough juice, enough processing. You need to borrow somebody else's processor.
Evidently for this.
Pay them some crypto. No, but that's. I mean, this is where people. I mean, you got two choices. You're either early to the party, you figure it out, you get on board, or you show up with the masses and become part of the bitch brigade that, oh, well, I wish I was here sooner. Well, you can't even say that. Your dumbass is here. So what? You're even worse. I wish I was here sooner. Wait, I was. What did I do while I was here? I acted like a user. I didn't act like an owner. And, infrastructure, I mean, every layer of the internet stack is now open season. It really is. And there's going to be some very, very smart people working on some protocols or working on layers of infrastructure that spread things out. And it has to be done. I mean, you think about, again, I'll go back to Elon Musk. He has this thing that they're designing called the virtual power plant. And what that basically does is it takes a bunch of people with their solar panels and Tesla batteries, the power walls, and through software, those people are able to move the electricity back and forth. Now you have basically a distributed electricity system. And we know we're going to need a crap load more electricity going forward because the use cases are just going up, and you see how much juice these data centers use. In the United States, it was estimated last year data centers use 3% of the electricity. It's estimated by 2027 that'll be up to 7% of all the electricity in the US used by data centers. That's even before any of us plug our coffee makers in. So we need a crap load more energy. You know, compute is tied to energy. The more compute you have, the more energy you require. You know, so it even goes to the energy level. It goes to the storage level, goes to the inference level, goes to the processing level. It goes to the network level, goes to the application level. You know, you have you own a piece of the Hive database. You have some Hive, you own a portion of the database. There's X number of Hive available. You have X number of Hive. You figure out how much of the database you own. So you want Hive to be worth more, make it a more valuable database.
Bring some content here.
Well, I mean, there's so many layers. It's like Leo AI. Mm-hmm. The reason why I'm most excited for Leo AI is not the crap that it's going to do when it rolls out. I don't care about that. I mean, I do, but that's just the beginning. I want to get the ball rolling so then I can say what's next and drive Cal nuts then, because it's like, you know, well, okay, this is all well and good. We've had it 3 days. What's next? Where's the full-blown image generation? Where's the full-blown video making? You know, but the point is this stuff's going to advance rapidly. I mean, like you said, you're not up to your neck immersing yourself in technology stuff, but even you don't go really looking for it, but you still can't help coming across and saying, oh my God, there's new stuff out. Oh my God, they're talking about this. That's what's happening. And it just keeps flowing to the point where we are so advanced compared to where we were 30 years ago that at least the digital area, infrastructure in the physical world takes longer because its actual devices have to be produced, manufactured, shipped, received, set up, plugged in, connected, all that stuff. Digital stuff in the digital world moves a hell of a lot faster. So, you know, once Cal gets the latest version of Leo AI trained, then they can start to take the next step and train it for the next version. You know, whatever that might be. So maybe they bring in then image generation or video generation or whatever it is, and they start to train it on that, you know, wherever this, and you know, we don't even know where any of this stuff's going. So the crap that we may be talking about a year from now and the features and the stuff we want, it's not even on anybody's radar because it's like not even there. Mm-hmm. But come spring, all of a sudden some company brings it out, everybody's copying it, and now you got open source versions, and it's like, Cal, we need this. And Cal's like, I'm already on it, and we're already training, and you know, it'll be about 6 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it takes to run through their training on it, and you know, then they can add it, and you have a piece of it. Look at all these AI tokens. Look how they've gone batshit crazy. What about the concept of Leo as an AI token? Now, right now, it's nothing because we don't have any AI, but what about a year from now? What about a year from now if Leo AI does a lot of what we see other applications out there do, bigger Web 2 applications? All of a sudden, it's an AI application. it has an AI application to it. Who's to say no? I mean, if you're on Leo and you can create 30-second videos, and I don't mean filming yourself, 30-second AI videos. I don't know if you'll be able to, but if you could do that, think of that. What does that do for you as opposed to other AI out there? Put you in the ball game.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to even imagine. And then I see once in a while when I'm on Facebook, I saw a post recently. Oh, don't you wish we could go back to like the 70s when there was like no internet or what? I'm like,
What are you, fucking stupid?
why? I
I
don't.
mean, the only ones who really do that are just fools, or, well, if they're on Facebook, they're probably old. I was going to say, are young people. Anybody who's like has any sense, who's old, realizes that life before the internet was a pain in the ass. Life before mobile phones was a pain in the ass. Life before open information. I mean, you think there's fake news today? What the hell do you think the news was? Fake news. You had no choice but to accept what was in your local paper. They chose what they fed you. If it wasn't in the paper, most people didn't know about it. And so when you start to look at, you know, if you called outside your local calling area, it cost you like 15 cents a minute. Do you know how hard it was to reach 100 people? Now you can throw up a thread, 100 people. You can throw up a tweet, 100 people can read it in a second and a half. You know how long it took in the 1970s and 1980s to reach 100 people? Tony Robbins bought, I don't know how many hours worth of late night infomercial time to get people to order his products. He had to be everywhere and spend who knows how much money just to try to get his message through. Now he has a website. Now he has a YouTube videos channel. I mean,
And it's
yeah,
everywhere. It's just,
he can go on to Twitter and say, we just set up reservations for our latest seminar. Here's the link, and get 1,000 people to sign up just through a tweet. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so you want to go back? You want to go back to cars that got 6 miles to the gallon? You know, weighed 4,000 pounds. Those big old Pontiacs. You ran into anything, it was like steel against steel. And of course, you know, your kids. I mean, there were no seatbelts in the back. Your kids were projectiles. And at that time, you didn't have shatterproof glass. So, you know, you flew right through it. Boom. You know,
yeah,
no air conditioning, no power windows, no power locks. I mean, give me a break. You went and bought a record or an 8-track tape. I mean, it just, you had 5 channels on TV. I could go on and on. Your photography was on film. So you went and spent $250 for a 24 exposure, or 12, maybe even only a 12 exposure roll of film. 10 of them were good. 2 of them, you know, at least 2 of them, one had your thumb in it, another was blurry. And then you had to go spend money to get it processed and get the pictures developed.
And wait like a week. You had to wait at least a week to get the damn things.
And then you had to go and get an extra set for grandma, and you had to go to the post office and get that special envelope that you could send pictures in. And that cost you $2 or $3 to send the pictures to grandma. I mean, people don't realize how much stuff has changed and how much stuff is changing. Think about what it used to cost. I don't know, pick a magazine. Time magazine. What did it cost them to get an article generated? They paid writers. Okay, they were probably salaried. Maybe there was some freelance stuff that they paid per article. But let's say they were salaried. So you take their salary divided by 2,000 hours, whatever you get. You go into a chatbot and you can say, generate me an article about the Vietnam War and the ending of it and the troops coming back home to the United States and the reaction of the public at that time. And there's a good chance within 5 minutes, you will have that article and you will have the ability to edit the article and go through and have it fully done within 5 minutes and cost you zip, cost you nothing. Compare that to Time Life, which maybe spend an average of $50 an article. I don't know. Um, I mean, this is just stuff people don't consider. People don't ponder how much the digital world has changed. And we got robotics coming up. And then we'll be saying stupid stuff in like 30 years if we're still around. Well, a lot of the people listening to this will still be around, but if you or I are still around in 30 years, we'll be saying, hey, you remember when we used to cook dinner instead of having a robot doing it? I mean, it's, remember when we used to have to clean the bathroom? It's just stupid. Remember when we used to have to drive? I mean, it's just go back to the 70s. Yeah, ask Leonard Skinner how that worked out. How was air travel even in the 70s? Wasn't the safest thing in the world. I mean, this is just what people don't think about.
They don't. They can't possibly.
Yeah, and and I guarantee you, mark my words, by 2040, we will be in a completely different world because of these technologies. I mean, 15 years is not a long time. And 15 years from now, it'll be 2040. We will be amazed. We will be amazed at what this stuff is capable of doing. And I heard the best analogy for these LLMs. This is a 100-story building, and we're on the second floor. That's how early it is. Yeah, that's how early it is. So I don't have technical dystopia. I don't fear any of this. Don't worry about the jobs. Know where it's going, and like Howard Marvel says, put yourself in position.
Right, get in it. I mean, I know I'm older, and there's a lot of people my age that are like, oh, technology. They don't. Even some people that are younger than me.
Oh yeah. Well, Gen X is the sandwich. It's the meat in the sandwich. You have the baby boomers who are one slice of bread. They tend to be, not completely, but tend to be technologically averse. The millennials on the other side of Gen X, they tend to be technology friendly. And the boomers are the meat in the middle, or the peanut butter and jelly in the middle. And it could go either way. Some Gen Xers are into technology, some resist it. If you resist it, you're screwed. You're screwed. And if you're living on Facebook, you're screwed. Because, I mean, you just better hope you die soon. And a lot of them on Facebook will die soon because it's the boomers and, the older generation of the boomers at least. But things are changing very quickly, and it's all related to technology. It's all related to, and again, we talk about Web3, and often we talk about with crypto and blockchain. Go research distributed computing. Go look at decentralized computing, decentralized storage. Go look up these topics. This is not stuff you'll find necessarily only on Cointelegraph. You'll find this in the computer magazines and on the computer sites and things of that nature. They're talking about it. This is an underlying wave that's taking place. So none of what I discuss or what we're talking about here is operating in a vacuum.
I guess every like generation or whatever has its own Luddites. Like, oh, I don't want any of that. I'm like, why the hell not? What, I mean, technology is going to ruin everything. No, it's not. It's so helpful. When I was in high school, I had a hell of a time learning how to type on a typewriter. When I got my computer,
You had a hell of a time doing anything when you were in high school because it was the analog world. If you had to get information, these people need to understand when we were in high school what it took to get information. Something as simple as Wikipedia, you don't know what the hell we went through. We had to get our ass in the car, which, depending on how old you were, meant getting a ride to the library from mom or dad. Then you get your ass to the library. Then you got to go deal with the mean old librarian at the reference desk because There were no friendly librarians at the reference desk. Guaranteed, they were all mean as shit.
It was like, shh.
Yeah, and so you got this old, decrepit, angry, ancient, fossilized woman when you're asking questions to find stuff and having to learn the damn Dewey Decimal System
They
and
pointed
not
at the
finding
card
any of that shit.
catalog.
So then you want to go see Encyclopedia Britannica. And the reason you went to the library is if you had an up-to-date library and you were at the main branch, they had the latest Encyclopedia Britannica, which the information was only a year old. If you were at like a satellite branch, Christ, that could have been 5 years old. So you're reading information that's 5 years old. And you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on. That was information. And that was the same way for companies. That was the same way for everybody. And now you don't even go to Wikipedia. You go to ChatGPT, you go to Grok, you go to Meta AI, you go to whichever one you want, you type in whatever you want. And it spits out stuff. And it may or may not be 100% accurate. There's a lot of hallucinations. But, I created a picture of a Corvette yesterday on one I found. It looked like a damn photograph. Better than any photo I could take, I guarantee you that. And it was just amazing. And this one was a little slow, so it took like a minute.
Ooh.
Now imagine if I was at General Motors creating sales aids, let's say for the dealerships or whatever, if they still have that crap. In the past, we'd have to hire professional photographers, and they'd have to take a Corvette and they'd run it around and they'd put it in different settings. I just generated one. I said, give me a Corvette, brand new Corvette, clear day, parked in the driveway, blue sky, green grass, blah, 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 whatever I put in. And it gave me a hellacious photo. It's like, okay, that's great. And this is the second floor, people. This isn't even the penthouse. We're nowhere near it yet. And as they say, the amount of compute, AI compute, LLM compute, is doubling every 6 months. That's how quickly the underlying processing is growing.
Sheesh.
Yep. Where, as much data as we create, exascale of data, people are saying we're going to run out of data. Part of it's due to the lockdown, like I just said with Reddit, which is another reason why Hive is so important. Everything that you put on Hive, text, can be read. Anybody can use it. Anybody can download it. Anybody can train their LLM on it. Now, does Meta give a shit? No. Does Google give a crap? No. But does some startup who's creating their own, do they care? Yeah. Because guess what? They don't have X. They don't have YouTube. They don't have Facebook or Instagram. So what do? They need to get it somewhere. That's the thing is, if you want to see the opportunities, keep looking for the bottlenecks. Follow this whole thing through as best you can and look at the bottlenecks. And there's your opportunities.
Well, and then now you'll be covering some more of this on Friday, right?
Well, it'll be talking more Leo specific and, how the tentacles of Leo. Again, it just, those who are doing more. I mean, the platform, as you just mentioned with Liz, the For You, Threadcast, these different things, hopefully, knock on wood, some point here, shorts, all of this stuff is feeding into making yourself, spreading yourself further out, putting yourself in front of more people.
I still need to ask Kale how I can get a lead capture form onto my, like, into a blog, like what John's done before. He was able to put the HTML, but now the HTML not allowed anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because if people want to build a business from their blog on here,
Try to see if there's some markup code that has that.
Yeah, I had been trying to look for markup code. Haven't been able to find it yet. I haven't given up, but I haven't been able to find it yet.
See if Mike possibly could get that code from Claude. Send him a message. Uh, Say you want a form. Tell him what you want, and just drop a thread on one of his replies, and he'll respond and say, "Can you go and see if Claude will give me a markup code for this?" He'll prompt it to see if it can do it. That Claude's pretty good at writing code, from what I understand.
Okay. And where is Claude at? That's another.
That's Anthropic. That's
Oh,
Amazon's funding that one.
okay. All right. Well, good talk today. Thank you for coming on.
All right.
Everybody have a nice rest of your day, and we will see you next time. And
Ciao.
do we have an AMA tomorrow and a chain chatter?
I guess so. I haven't heard pro or con for it.
Okay, and then of course there's the Friday show,
Yep.
the Lion's Den. So we'll see you guys later this week.
Ciao.
Bye bye.